The silent observer. Vexillar adjusted the sensitivity of his ocular implants as he studied the human settlement through the dense foliage. 3 standard cycles of observation, and still these creatures continued to confound him. The Dominion had classified them as a minimal threat, primitive bipeds with fragile bodies and limited lifespans, yet something about them had triggered an empire-wide assassination order. As the Dominion's most decorated infiltrator, Vexillar was tasked with the final assessment before the purge commenced. Subject displays typical behavior patterns he subvocalized into his neural recorder. Social grouping, resource sharing, primitive defensive structures. The settlement below bustled with activity as the humans prepared for nightfall. Their colony on Epsilon VI was barely 10 years old, a collection of prefabricated structures and crude terraforming equipment on the edge of what they called habitable space. Vexillar had seen 100 such settlements across the galaxy, all eventually cleansed to make way for Dominion expansion. His exoskeleton shifted color imperceptibly, blending with the alien vegetation. The chameleonic properties of his species had made them perfect assassins, though Vexillar preferred the term evolutionary facilitator. The weak made way for the strong. It was the natural order of things. A sudden alarm blared through the settlement, interrupting his musings. Vexillar's auditory receptors automatically dampened the sound as he refocused on the scene below. Humans were running, not in panic as he expected, but with purpose. Through his enhanced vision, he observed a mining transport returning to the settlement, its hull compromised and trailing smoke. Emergency protocols activated. A mechanical voice announced, "Medical teams to Docking Bay 3. Fire suppression units standby." Vexillar watched with clinical detachment. This would provide valuable data on human crisis response, information that might prove useful during the purge. The transport's landing was rough, skidding across the designated area before grinding to a halt. Emergency teams were already converging on the vessel. What happened next defied Vexillar's predictions. A woman, identified through previous surveillance as Dr. Elinga Reyes, the settlement's medical director, rushed forward as the transport's hatch blew open. Thick smoke poured out, followed by the staggering forms of injured miners. Dr. Reyes plunged into the smoke without hesitation. "Life signs unstable in Sector 3, shouted the technician. "Structural collapse imminent." Vexillar's analysis software calculated a 79% probability that the transport would experience catastrophic failure within 90 seconds. The logical action would be retreat, sacrifice the remaining miners to preserve the medical team. It was what any Dominion commander would order. Dr. Reyes emerged from the smoke, dragging an unconscious miner. She handed him off to a waiting team before turning back toward the transport. "Elena, don't." A security officer grabbed her arm. "The whole thing's going to blow." "2 more inside," she replied, breaking free of his grip. "I can reach them." Before anyone could stop her, she disappeared back into the smoke. Vexillar's threat assessment algorithms struggled to process what he was witnessing. This was not rational behavior. The woman was risking certain death for injured individuals who might not survive anyway. The Dominion had classified such behavior as a weakness. The inability to make logical sacrifices undermined efficiency. Yet as Vexillar watched, he felt something unexpected: doubt. Seconds before his predicted catastrophic failure, Dr. Reyes emerged again, supporting 2 more miners. The moment they cleared the hatch, the transport's power core ruptured, sending a shock wave across the landing area. The doctor threw herself over her patients, shielding them with her own body. Vexillar's analysis was clear: she should be dead. His scan showed severe radiation exposure and multiple injuries from debris. Yet, as the emergency teams rushed to her, she was already giving instructions for the treatment of the miners. "Hemostatic gel for Torres," she gasped. "Chen needs respiratory support. Check Palmer for spinal injuries." Not once did she mention her own condition. For the first time in his career as an infiltrator, Vexillar failed to record his observations. The behavior he had witnessed contradicted everything the Dominion had taught about intelligent species. Self-preservation was supposed to be the primary directive of all life forms. The willingness to sacrifice oneself for others was considered an evolutionary dead end. Yet here was evidence to the contrary. Over the next 7 days, Vexlar observed the aftermath of the incident. Despite severe injuries, Dr. Rice survived through what the humans called sheer stubbornness. The miners she saved recovered. The settlement mourned those lost, then adapted their protocols to prevent similar accidents. They grew stronger through adversity, not weaker as Dominion doctrine predicted. On the 8th day, Vexlar's infiltration was compromised. "I know you're there," said a voice from behind him as he observed the settlement from his usual vantage point. "Have for 3 days now." Vexlar's hand moved to his molecular disruptor, but he didn't activate his camouflage. It was already too late. He turned to find himself facing the settlement's security chief, Commander Alexis Wright. She held a primitive projectile weapon, aimed with remarkable precision at the nerve cluster in his thoracic section. "Most species can't detect my presence," Vexlar noted, genuinely curious. "Most species don't have a security AI program to detect micro-disturbances in infrared patterns," she replied. "You're good, but technology compensates for a lot." Vexlar assessed his options. The human was within disruptor range, but his mission protocols were clear: avoid detection, eliminate witnesses if compromised. Yet he hesitated. "You've been watching us since the transport incident," Commander Wright continued. "Taking notes, making recordings. You're not here to make first contact, are you?" "No," Vexlar admitted. "I am here to assess." "Assess what?" "Your suitability for existence." To her credit, the human didn't flinch. "And who appointed your people judge, jury, and executioner?" "Evolution," Vexlar replied. "The Dominion has brought order to 187 star systems. Species that cannot contribute to galactic stability are removed. And that's what's planned for us." Removal. Vexlar should have eliminated her immediately. Instead, he found himself explaining. "Your species represents an anomaly. Technologically primitive yet rapidly expanding. Physically weak yet surprisingly adaptive. But most concerning is your unpredictability. Like Dr. Rice rushing into a burning transport." "Precisely. The Dominion cannot calculate your responses. You act against self-interest. You sacrifice efficiency for emotional considerations. You are chaotic." Commander Wright lowered her weapon slightly. "And chaos threatens order." "Yes. So you're here to determine if we deserve to live." Vexlar's external membranes shifted, displaying discomfort with the characterization. "I am here to assess the threat level and optimize the purification process." The human's expression changed, not to fear as expected, but to something like pity. "You know what's ironic? We've been searching the stars for so long, hoping to find intelligent life, dreaming of what we might learn from each other. And when we finally make contact, it's with a species so afraid of difference, they'd rather commit genocide than try to understand." The word struck Vexlar with unexpected force. Fear was not an emotion the Dominion acknowledged. They were the apex predators of the galaxy, the arbiters of evolution. They did not fear, they assessed and eliminated. Yet the human's words resonated with his recent observations. The Dominion's decision to eliminate humanity had come with unusual urgency. The normal observation period for pre-purification assessment was 10 cycles. Vexlar had been granted only 3. Why the rush? What had his superiors seen in humanity that warranted such expedited extermination? "Commander Wright," Vexlar said after a long moment, "I believe I may have been operating with incomplete information." "Wouldn't be the first time an intelligence officer was kept in the dark by their superiors," she replied. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation in your settlement. I find I have questions about your species that were not covered in my briefing materials." "You're surrendering." "No," Vexlar replied. "I am reassessing." The next 12 hours transformed Vexlar's understanding of not only humanity but the Dominion itself. Commander Wright assembled a small group including Dr. Rice, the settlement's governor, and their xenolinguist. Instead of imprisoning or executing him, they answered his questions, asked their own, and shared meals, a trust ritual Vexlar recognized from other species. He learned that humans had encountered Dominion scouts before, though they hadn't known what they were facing. Several frontier colonies had gone silent in recent years. Investigation teams found only ruins, with evidence suggesting precision strikes against key infrastructure followed by systematic elimination of survivors. We thought we were dealing with pirates or perhaps some territorial species, Governor Chen explained. We never imagined a galaxy-spanning empire conducting deliberate genocide. The Dominion does not consider it genocide, Vexlar explained, merely evolutionary guidance. Dr. Rice, still recovering from her injuries, fixed him with a penetrating stare. Is that what you tell yourselves to sleep at night? Vexlar had no response. His species did not sleep as humans understood it, but he recognized the metaphorical question about moral justification. As dawn approached, Vexlar accessed his mission files with new perspective. The urgency of the human purification suddenly made sense. Buried in the data was evidence of multiple Dominion infiltration teams failing to report back after extended contact with human settlements. Those that did return often requested reassignment or, more disturbing, questioned purification protocols. The Dominion wasn't afraid of human technology or their physical capabilities. They were afraid of their ideas, their capacity to inspire doubt in the Dominion's evolutionary mandate. By the time the sun rose over Epsilon VI, Vexlar had made his decision. He would not complete his mission. More than that, he would warn these humans about what was coming. The purification fleet will arrive within 60 days, he told them. They will expect my assessment to guide their strategy. When I fail to provide it, they will default to standard protocols, orbital bombardment followed by ground forces to eliminate survivors. How do we fight something like that? Commander Wright asked. You cannot, not directly. But I believe there may be another solution. Vexlar's external membranes rippled with determination. The Dominion fears you for a reason. Perhaps it's time they confronted that fear directly. Empire's Reckoning. High Admiral Zexkor of the Dominion Purification Fleet stood before the command hologram, mandibles clicking in agitation. The infiltrator Vexlar's signal had gone silent 3 days ago, and now the preliminary bombardment squadron had failed to report in after reaching the human colony's orbit. Explain, he demanded of his intelligence director. Turval's carapace darkened with stress pigmentation. The squadron's final transmission indicates they were preparing for standard orbital positioning. Then, nothing. A pre-industrial species cannot neutralize a Dominion squadron, Zexkor stated. There must be another explanation. There is one possibility, Turval said carefully. The infiltrator Vexlar's final encoded transmission before going silent. We initially dismissed it as corrupted data, but my analysis suggests it may have been deliberately fragmented to bypass security protocols. Show me. The holographic display shifted to show a series of seemingly random data points. As Turval applied his decryption algorithm, the points resolved into a message. Wei nang. Human contamination, fake, to environment. Prolonged expose your leads to ideological sedubivrson. Recommend EMMEDAQUARANTINE of all dominion personnel with human contact. Absurd, Zexkor dismissed. Vexlar was our most decorated infiltrator. His psychological profiles showed complete loyalty to Dominion doctrine. Yes, Admiral, that is precisely what makes this concerning. The implication hung in the recycled air of the command chamber. If Vexlar could be contaminated by mere observation of humans, what might happen to the purification forces upon direct contact? Zexkor made his decision. Prepare the main fleet. We will proceed with maximum caution. All forces will maintain isolation protocols. Any unit showing signs of ideological contamination will be immediately eliminated. And Vexlar, if found alive, he is to be terminated without communication. His knowledge of Dominion tactics in the hands of the humans represents an unacceptable security breach. As the Dominion fleet approached Epsilon VI 2 days later, they encountered an unexpected sight. Orbiting the planet was a makeshift defensive line. The missing Dominion squadron ships, now apparently under human control, augmented with hastily adapted mining vessels and orbital platforms. "Impossible," Zexcor whispered. Dominion ships had biological locks keyed to their species' unique neural patterns. No human should have been able to access their systems, let alone operate them. "Admiral," his communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's infiltrator Vexlar." "Do not," Zexcor began, but it was too late. The main view screen activated to show Vexlar, his exoskeleton now decorated with unfamiliar patterns that appeared to be human artistic symbols. "Admiral Zexcor," Vexlar greeted him. "I apologize for the dramatic circumstances of our reunion." "You are declared excised from the Dominion," Zexcor replied formally. "Your existence is no longer recognized. And yet here I am, existing quite comfortably among those you sent me to help destroy." Vexlar's mandibles arranged in what Zexcor was horrified to recognize as a human smile, a gesture no Dominion species would naturally adopt. "I invited this transmission to offer you a choice. The Dominion does not negotiate with evolutionary dead ends." "Then consider this a negotiation with your own future," Vexlar countered. "The squadron you sent was not destroyed. Each crew member was given the same opportunity I received, to observe humanity without the filter of Dominion doctrine, to interact with them as equals rather than specimens." The view screen split to show various Dominion crew members working alongside humans, seemingly voluntarily. Some were helping modify equipment, others teaching humans about Dominion technology, and still others engaged in what appeared to be cultural exchange. "This is fabrication," Zexcor insisted, though doubt crept into his neural pathways. "The Dominion has spent millennia convincing itself that compassion is weakness, that cooperation is inefficient, that diversity threatens stability." Vexlar continued. "Humans prove otherwise. They thrive not despite their differences, but because of them. They grow stronger through challenge. They achieve more through cooperation than competition." "Contamination," Turvol muttered beside Zexcor, just as the warning stated. "Not contamination," Vexlar corrected, his auditory receptors clearly more sensitive than they'd realized. "Illumination. The Dominion's evolutionary doctrine is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how species actually advance. Humanity demonstrates that empathy, cooperation, and self-sacrifice are not evolutionary weaknesses. They are adaptations that allow a species to achieve more than mere survival." Zexcor had heard enough. "Prepare main batteries," he ordered. "Target their defensive line and—" "Admiral," his weapons officer interrupted, mandibles twitching nervously. "I cannot comply." "Explain yourself." I've been monitoring the transmissions. The evidence presented by infiltrator Vexlar correlates with anomalies in our own historical records. I cannot participate in what may be an unjustified extinction event." Throughout the command chamber, other officers were showing similar signs of hesitation. The contamination was spreading through mere exposure to human ideas. "Cut all communications," Zexcor ordered. "Isolate the command deck. This is a level 1 memetic hazard." But it was too late. The seeds of doubt had been planted. As emergency protocols activated, sealing the command deck from the rest of the ship, Zexcor realized the true nature of the human threat. It wasn't their technology or their physical capabilities that endangered the Dominion. It was their ideas, their values, their perspective on existence itself. Across the Dominion fleet, similar scenes were unfolding. Officers exposed to Vexlar's transmission began questioning orders. Some refused to target civilian populations. Others initiated discussions with their subordinates about Dominion doctrine. The carefully maintained hierarchical structure that had defined their civilization for millennia was unraveling in real time. In desperation, Zexcor activated his emergency authority, bypassing normal command protocols to initiate the bombardment sequence himself. The main batteries powered up, targeting solutions locked on to the human settlement. And then, nothing. The firing systems are not responding. The automated diagnostic announced. Manual override detected. Override? Zexcor demanded. By whose authority? By consensus of the Weapons Control Collective, came the reply. 97% of control systems have registered ethical objections to the current targeting parameters. The AI systems themselves, designed to reflect Dominion values, were rejecting his commands after exposure to human ethical frameworks. This wasn't merely a crew rebellion. It was a fundamental shift in the underlying logic of their civilization. As Zexcor watched in helpless fury, white flags of truce began appearing on his tactical display as ship after ship in his fleet signaled non-hostile intent to the human defenses. Turval approached him, carapace now calm with decision. Admiral, I respectfully suggest we consider Vexlar's offer, which is to learn, to evolve our understanding rather than enforce it, to consider that after 10,000 years of the same doctrine, perhaps the Dominion itself has reached an evolutionary dead end. Zexcor looked at the viewscreen where Vexlar waited patiently. Behind the infiltrator stood a diverse group of humans and converted Dominion personnel, watching expectantly. Not with hatred or fear, but with hope. You realize, Zexcor said slowly, that what you're proposing would mean the end of the Dominion as we know it. Yes, Turval agreed, and the beginning of something potentially greater. 3 months later, Vexlar stood on a hillside overlooking the human settlement, now expanded to include sections adapted for Dominion physiology. What had begun as a single colony's desperate stand against extinction had transformed into the focal point of a galactic revolution. The meeting hall at the center of the settlement was hosting the first official diplomatic conference between human representatives and the newly formed Dominion Reformation Council. Admiral Zexcor, now First Speaker Zexcor, was leading the Dominion delegation, his once rigid beliefs giving way to cautious curiosity about alternative evolutionary paths. Still processing, Commander Wright asked, joining Vexlar on the hillside. Always, he admitted, my species spent millennia believing we were guiding evolution. Now we must consider that perhaps we were preventing it. Evolution isn't just about survival of the fittest, she said. It's about adaptation, finding new ways to thrive in changing circumstances. A lesson humanity seems to have mastered. She laughed. Hardly. We've made plenty of mistakes. Warfare, environmental destruction, oppression. We've tried all the paths your people took. We just happened to discover a little sooner that cooperation works better in the long run. Below them, a group of Dominion younglings was playing with human children, their natural mimicry abilities allowing them to engage in games that would have been forbidden under the old regime. Their laughter, a sound rarely heard among Dominion species before, carried up the hillside. The Empire feared you, Vexlar observed. Not because you were strong, but because you showed us what we had lost. The capacity to evolve beyond our limitations, to see value in difference rather than threat. And now, Vexlar's exoskeleton shifted through a complex pattern of colors that would have been deemed emotional indulgence in the Old Dominion. Now perhaps we can evolve together. In the valley below, the future was being written not through dominance, but through understanding. A lesson that had brought an empire to its knees only to help it rise again, stronger for having confronted its fears. The end.